as it gets easier and easier and easier to create code. It's not really about the code. If you can have AIs generate the code and review the code, your role is arguably even more important. I've been at Cursor for a few months, and the biggest problem that I found is that there are millions of developers starting to use AI to help them write code. Large percentage of them don't really understand how the models work yet. Feel like you're writing code in the normal way, and then I have this chat where I can just ask questions and then it generates some code, and great, this is awesome. Across the industry, we saw this transition from front-end, back-end engineer split to more of like a product engineer, infra engineer split. But now there's an even bigger split or change happening with AI, where AI engineers are the most generalist of them all. Because when you learn to code with AI, you can do the whole thing. You can do front-end, back-end, product work, infrastructure work, GitHub Actions, YAML slinging. You can do, Docker, Kubernetes. You can do whatever you want. I mean, it's helpful to have the prior knowledge so that you can understand, you kind of know what good looks like. But it's easier than ever, I think, to learn something new if you have the ambition and the desire. So if tomorrow I want to learn TOML, I don't really know TOML syntax that well, to be honest. I mostly use YAML. I know that TOML exists. I don't really know what people use it for, but if I really wanted to learn TOML tomorrow, I can just fire up Cursor and I can just ask, help me understand TOML. Let's do some TOML exercises. And learn syntax if I really wanted to. So I think that transition is happening. And for me, the reason why I was very excited and kind of wanting to make this shift is I think anyone right now who writes code as a professional software engineer is going to have this, this almost grieving period of breaking up with, I love my code and I write this artisanal code that I think has to be perfectly handcrafted in this way, to what is my job again? And my job is to create good software. My job is to create a good product. And in a future, maybe it's not now, maybe it's a few years, maybe it's 5 years, but it gets easier and easier and easier to create code. It's not really about the code. It's about the software as an end-to-end thing. And that's how well it runs, how well it looks, how well it functions. Yes, the code is important, but if you can have AIs generate the code and review the code, your role is arguably even more important. It's just the jobs to be done have changed a bit in this world. So that's the thing I'm excited about teaching people.
Today's episode is sponsored by Inbound, my own product. Inbound is the best way to send and receive emails, all through a super developer-friendly API and SDK. You can set up webhooks on email addresses to trigger certain actions, or even integrate with your existing AI platform. Try it out today at inbound.new.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exciting that you highlighted the very undervalued benefit of Cursor. It's an excellent education tool. You can learn so much if you use it right, and the potential is absolutely tremendous. Curious about your day-to-day though. You actually ship quite a bit of code on your GitHub. We see over 3,000 contributions last year.
I got very interested in not just coding with AI like a autocomplete or GitHub Copilot, Cursor tab type experience, but coding with agents about 6 months ago, I would say. And for me, that was kind of the point where I really started to think, okay, this has some ramifications. This is probably going to change the day-to-day work of what it means to be a software engineer in a world where you can have 3 or 4 coding agents writing the code for you, and then another one to review and touch up the code. And then you push to a PR and you have a code review bot on there, which can go and check for errors. And then maybe when you deploy to production, you have more AI agents who check the code. And it just made me realize I wanted to be surrounded by people who this was all they were thinking about and trying to figure out what this looked like together. So joining the team and everyone who works on Cursor has been really fun. There's a lot of very smart people, a pretty small team actually, which is fun, and a lot of former founders. So a lot of synergy there with Vercel. Vercel hired a lot of former founders. I think Cursor and Espiris also hired a lot of former founders, or at least has founder energy. So I would say I'm the type of person who I'm delusional that I would like to be a founder, but also pragmatic that it probably won't happen now. I don't know. It might if the right idea hits me, maybe, or if I decide I'm looking for a new challenge, maybe. But I like to say that I have founder energy. which maybe is just like another way of saying I try to have and develop lots of agency to just do things, try new things, build new things, and maybe ask for forgiveness, not permission sometimes, which most of the time works out in your favor. So yeah, I've been at Cursor for a few months and have been spending most of my time on the biggest problem that I found. And the biggest problem that I found is that there are millions of developers starting to use AI to help them write code. And like a large percentage of them don't really understand how the models work yet. And I get it. It's like you feel like you're writing code in the normal way. And then I have this chat where I can just ask questions and then it generates some code. And great, this is awesome. I really started to see it from the outside and then on the inside, spending all my time and energy on this even more, where I start to work with these developers and I say, okay, well, the reason why the quality went down is because you were using 90% of the context window, or you tried to give it just a ridiculous amount of information and it was hard for the model to understand how to find what was good versus what was not was good. And a couple times the response I got was, wait, what's context again? And I was like, okay. So there's like a decent number of people who don't yet know what some of these foundations are. So for me, the number one thing I wanted to work on that will launch here very soon is getting out this educational material on what are these AI foundation. And all of the model labs have been working so hard on building the thing that they haven't really built a lot of the educational stuff either. So like there's really not a ton of great content on the internet that explains what the foundations are of AI models and more practically how you use them. Not necessarily about machine learning or training your own models. I think there's content about that. But for the average developer, they're not training their own models. They're not learning machine learning. They just want to be productive. And they have a set way of writing code today where they feel pretty productive in. And they heard, okay, well, I've got new tools like Cursor that can make me more productive. And maybe they try it out and it doesn't live up to that expectation for them. They try it and, oh, the code it generated actually wasn't that good. Or I tried this thing, it didn't really end up the way I wanted it to. And I find that when I have started to talk to some of these people and spend some time with them and I explain like, okay, here's how models work. Here's what a hallucination is. Here's context. Here's the context window. These models do tool calling and then it can go search your code. It can apply code changes. And then you have this agent and this agent just does that in a big loop and you can ask it a question. It can loop over. It can call a bunch of different files. It can make some code changes. And then I see like some of the light bulbs go off in their head with like, okay, so it's not really a black box. Like there is a way to kind of harness the power of the model and I would say limit the number of downsides because the models inherently are probabilistic. They're going to get things wrong. There will be things they generate and yeah, the code's actually not that good. But the key is to look at that and not say, okay, I'm just going to throw the whole thing away. It's like, how do I limit the downsides based on the current state of the tools, products, technology, assuming they're going to keep getting better over time. So I would assume that in a year, at least based on this progress so far, the models will be at least twice as good as what they are today. So knowing that, I mean, for me, it's hard not to look at the way I'm writing code and be like, okay, I should probably learn this stuff. If the model's going to be, at least double its intelligence and maybe its speed in a year, well, that has a pretty profound change on how I will generate code.
What are some of the concepts from a rookie to an expert that you need to go through and learn about?
First and foremost is that software that we've, all been writing for the, most of this time has been deterministic software. So I code something that says 1 + 1 = 2. Like it's put into the bits and bytes. With large language models, it's not that way. You might not get the exact same result for the exact same input. And that's a feature and a bug. Like there are ways to minimize the number of hallucinations that you get back, but also the fact that the models can hallucinate is kind of the secret sauce. Like it's kind of the special thing is that you can put in this thing and it can hallucinate. It can just like magically come up with pretty coherent series of paragraphs and text. So it's kind of the amazing part about it all. So when you ask a model to do some coding task and you get some code back and maybe it's not the code that you expected, then you have to ask yourself, is the information that I gave the model the same thing that I would give to maybe a new coworker that I was onboarding and was just sitting beside me at the desk. So a new coworker joins, sits beside me at the desk. I pull up my computer. I'm probably going to say, okay, so our repo is a, TypeScript and React application. Here's how this part of the code base works. This one over here has got this kind of nasty business logic, like just that's like all the old legacy deprecated stuff. Just don't even worry about that stuff. Your job today, we're going to go through this linear issue. We're going to solve this thing. Here's how you can get set up locally. If you have any questions or if you need anything, like I'm right here. We can just pair program together. Like you're giving all of this context about how the code base works, how the system works, the business requirements. So when you ask a model like, build me $1 billion SaaS, make no mistakes, it's probably not going to give you the result that you want unless you have high quality context in. So you put in high quality context, you get out high quality responses. So the whole art of context engineering, I think, is a skill to be learned and developed. And then it also answers the next question when your new coworker has been coding for some time, they've been using the AI tools, and then a couple days down the road, they say, they knock on my door. Hey, Lee, it was really good on the first day, but on day 3, it's actually been not as good. And I go and I look at their editor, I look at cursor, I see the little percentage window. They're at 90% of the context window. It's like, okay, well, imagine you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, and you've got a really big haystack. It's going to be very hard to find that needle. That's the same way at a model when you give it just a whole bunch of stuff and then you give it a new information, it's going to continue and use all of the additional information that you had in the conversation. So you probably want to start a new chat. It's like you had the working memory of this, working with this model, and you're going to delete it and you're going to start a new fresh working memory. And again, it's kind of a feature and a bug. I think over time, it'll be great as models get better about remembering the context over many days or months, just like a coworker. It's one of the nice things about humans is that when I onboard a coworker and they get better and better and better, there's this continual learning. And then in a couple of months, like they're ramped up, they're really productive. With the current state of AI models, it's not really like that. You start a new chat, it's a fresh working memory. You're starting from maybe not 0, but you're starting over. And that's where this art of context engineering is really important right now, because if you're codifying all the things that you would need to give to the model and you start a new chat, then you can just attach those into the new chat. So that might be design decisions, to-dos. It could be rules of your code base. It could be the actual issue that you're working on, like the specific task. If you give all that stuff into the model, well, now it has all the information.